Good day and welcome. I am Kathleen with the Game of Life and presenting today solutions part 2. I did a 1-part, now I'm doing a 2-part. Also, if you haven't liked and shared and you find this helpful, please do. I really appreciate that, and subscribe. So part 2 of solutions is every problem has a solution. So it's finding that solution and taking back our power, taking back our rights, claiming them, invoking them, and declaring them. So let's dive on in, shall we? And look at these solutions. First of all, this is not legal advice or opinion. I am not an attorney and never wanted to be one. Although I did spend 30 years working with some of the best attorneys globally and in contracts and phases within the corporation. I'm a corporate dropout, freedompreneur. So buried under code, statutes, titles is control and fear. And that's where we stand today. That's why you have this overreaching government and these companies putting poison in our air, food, water, and all the other abuse that's going on. And it's done by society, right? And we're all a part of society. We play that role, and sometimes we're the tattleteller or whatever. So it's really realizing and remembering who we are, that we're not the title, that we are all equal, all, not some, but we're all equal until a man or woman takes a title. And that is when they become a servant to all mankind. It's kind of flipped upside down now. And there's codes and titles and administrative policies, procedures, terms, and conditions. And we're all weighed down and we feel, oh my God, what can I do? Because we keep handing our power over to the bar association, the criminal mafia, if you will, in the game, of course, of life that I wrote. So it's kind of like handing your power over to the mafia. And we've been conditioned and programmed to do that. We've also been controlled to believe television. That's right, television, because news is fake. And Trump wasn't the first one. My dad told me that over 34 years ago. So it's actors playing roles. Just remember that when you get all emotional about something, maybe what you're seeing is a Hollywood production. Just maybe. All to have fear. Why? Because fear is false evidence, appears real. However, there's many solutions, and you, my friend, are the solution by having faith over fear. And that's where the game gets fun. So I suggest always staying out of court if at all possible. Self-governance is key, and that's why I teach it in the private contracts that I do, the private member agreements that I do for faith-based organizations, is self-governance is key. This is why government is overreaching right now. It's almost like they're screaming, what will it take for all of mankind to just stop allowing us to do this to them, allowing us to abuse them? And it's like waking up and realizing, wait a minute, something's not right here. And I'm going to have to put all those politicians and news media and corporate executives in timeout. And that, my friend, is being an honor, because we're like, hey, wait a minute, you can't harm us. It's that simple. So we make the other whole. When someone causes a wrong or a trespass, we're due remedy and restitution. And likewise, when we do wrong or trespass, we must offer remedy and restitution. So if you're a trespass, let's say, how do you handle that? Because we haven't really been taught that. We're not taught that in school. We're not taught that in college. I mean, and we're certainly not taught that in the television, are we? And so it's learning how to reclaim that. And it starts with communication. And we can do that through our own words. And guess what? You don't have to be a bar attorney to write what you want to articulate. And I don't mean like a story. Let's divorce the history. Let's divorce the story. Let's stop identifying with the version that's not serving our highest, greatest interest. And let's invoke, claim, and declare our rights as mankind and express those in a way that can be articulated accurately with facts and evidence. If you don't have facts and evidence, it's probably an opinion that's a little bit weighed by some experience and some trauma, right? So correspondence is the best way to do that. You're going to let the other side, the other man or woman know, yo, I think you've wronged me. And you want to give them the opportunity to remedy. And what is a reasonable remedy offer? So let's say my mailbox is knocked over, and I just assume it's my neighbor that lives right, their driveway's right by there. And I'm like, you knocked over my mailbox and you need to make me whole. It's going to cost me 500 and I'm going to charge you 1,000. That's probably not reasonable. If it costs me 500, then, maybe a little bit for my time, if I can show that I had to take some time and everything, but be able to document that. Because and was there a camera? Do you know, is the back of their car have the color of the mailbox on it? Because you don't know if somebody else came by and did that. So you might want to start communicating and just asking. We're so used to not being able to ask and just say, hey, my mailbox got knocked over. Do you happen to have a camera on your house? Did you see anything, or do you know anything about it? And that's how you can start the conversation. This is called adulting. I know it's something that's a lost art. And what I teach is not new age. I teach old age. I teach biblical. Let's go back in time and let's be the men and women that we were supposed to be. The biblical times where we act in honor, we walk in with integrity, and we have ethics and morals. So we're just going to start a conversation. And if we do, let's say, have it on our video recorder that it was them, and we can say, hey, yo, Tom, a man that lives across the street from me, I noticed it, and I'm not sure if you're aware, but it appears that you backed into my mailbox, knocked it over. I got an estimate. This is the estimate. And I'd like for you to make me whole. And I'm sure it was an accident and everything, but here's my remedy. And so you're going to start that. How are you going to start that? Well, first of all, one of the reasons why everyone's bitching and complaining, on Facebook and Instagram, and the world is this and this person does that, is because we don't know how to bring honor. To allow someone to trespass on you, to wrong you, and do nothing, that's as bad as doing it. It's just as bad. You're just as at fault. Complaining is 0. It's even less than that, because it's kind of childish, right? And I don't mean to offend anybody, but it's a little bit childish, and it's nobody's fault. I mean, we've been conditioned to do that, right? With Facebook and Instagram and all the social media, it's like tattletale, 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 but do nothing. Don't take any action. Just make sure people know your opinions, right? And this is really kind of dishonor, to not speak up, to not hold others accountable. And it doesn't always have to be such a bad thing. It's like when your kid is acting up and they could hurt themselves, you want to say, no, this isn't how we act. Take your dishes to the sink and put them in. Clean up after yourself. We're just communicating our expectations. And is it reasonable? It would be dishonor and immoral to not speak up and tell someone when they're trespassing. And I'm going to take this just a little bit further. Is when I was I was married, and in a very, very physical, abusive marriage, strangled and black eyes and, all that good stuff. Not good stuff, actually. I went to a priest who told me that our number one duty, our sacred duty, is to always be in honor of ourselves. And when we are in honor of ourselves, we are in honor of Creator, God, Source. And then we are in honor of the person doing it, because we're teaching them, hey, you can't do that. I'm setting my boundaries, and your sovereignty and your freedom ends where mine begins. And so you need to stop that or else this. And communicate that or remove yourself from a situation so that you're safe. The reason why is because hurt people hurt people, hurt people, hurt people. When we can teach the hurt man or woman how to honor ourselves, we teach them how to honor themselves. And it's a tenfold, a millionfold effect. And that's beautiful. Be you to the fullest. Some have asked me, is it really honorable? I've been taught that to bring equity is not honorable. Well, I think that it is 100% dishonor to allow abuse like poisoning in the air, water, soil, trafficking, the countless other abuses that are happening. And I think, personally, my opinion is that it's time for us to join together and start holding bad actors accountable. This is my humble opinion, as we are in dishonor to not bring this process into equity and to take action. It would be dishonor to not pay a bill and to not pay taxes without cleaning up your contracts. And that's what I teach is private contracts, how to clean up contracts, right? We made some contracts. Two wrongs do not make a right. If you're in dishonor and then you're trying to defend that dishonor because they did something wrong, I mean, two wrongs don't make a right. I don't even know how that's equity. I'm missing something, obviously. But let's just talk about bringing equity for ourselves and bringing equity to hold others accountable. And I'm talking about people like Pfizer and the government and American Water and those kind of companies, that are putting poison in our bodies and our water. Our life force energy is water, is it not? The overreaching government. So let's do this together, shall we? The reason our world is the way it is because people were silent. And that silence was taken as consent. Silence is consent. When silence can and should be given, silence is acceptance. So when silence was taken as consent and that consent became custom, it became common law. Yeah. And that custom became presumed law. It's just presumed that you consented. So people pleasing, staying silent, doing as told for your own good, all of that is spiritual dishonor and disguised as a virtue. Oh, I'm just going to go along. Why can't I remember I was told by many, why can't you just obey? I do obey. I just don't obey controlling, freak, egotistical men and women. That's all. So it's who do you obey? It's not that you don't obey. It's who do you hold in the highest position? And that is where the virtue comes. And we're in this game together. We've all been duped. But together as a game, we rise up, we level up by helping each other. And we're learning honor. And to learn honor is applying divine law. That is your highest law. Some say it's equity. Equity is how you apply it. Divine law. And then applying honor, learning honor, divine. Applying honor is ecclesiastical. It's the air. It's the breath of the words that you speak and write. And then communicating a trespass is bringing it back to natural law and holding others accountable with evidence and record of it and what remedy is you are seeking. That's equity in action. It's beautiful, is it not? Be you to the fullest. I did a little chart here and it says law, like the level of law, divine, ecclesiastical, natural, and equity, the action, embodied virtue, and the outcome. So divine law is to learn honor and have that embodiment, that awareness. And then the outcome is the inner correction of the intent. What was the intent? When you have an intent, heart of compassion, and that's your intent, is to bring compassion to all situations, that's divine. Ecclesiastical is applying law. It's the steward, being a good steward. It's the righteous authority. Natural law would be to communicate that trespass through courage and empowerment. When you start creating a baseline of standing up and speaking up your truth, that is courage. You start resonating and vibrating at a different level. And if you're not sure what I mean, I'm going to make a video on the Hawkins scale of levels of consciousness, or you could go ahead and research that yourself. And I would look up Robert Emoto, a Japanese doctor that tested water. And I do give those out in my class, the Hawkins scale and Dr. Emoto's video. So I'll try to take those as well. But that's restoration of balance. When you bring that courage, you're bringing balance. It's not about overcoming the evil. It's finding the balance and not the harmony, because that's harm. Darkness isn't all bad, and too much light is blinding. So let's just bring that balance. And I like to call it the dance floor, where good and evil come together, where dark and light come together, and you have just the perfect balance, right? The balance behind me. And then there's equity, and that's holding those accountable. So to not hold them accountable, to just complain on social media and do nothing, really not taking any action, that would be dishonorable. So to bring equity, not defend equity, but to bring it, that's justice. That's remedy. That's peace. That's a choice. And that, my friend, is what we're learning now. And that's what crumbles the walls of Jericho, of corruption, right? Now, a quick overview of what we're going to go into is the correspondence. Like I said, communicate. Hey, did you know that you knocked over my mailbox? Hey, did you know? It's not your hurt feelings. If your feelings are hurt, go do some inner work, okay? Go do some self-reflection. If you're bent ass, like holding a grudge on somebody, especially family members from 20, 30, 40 years ago, and you're like, oh, she always does this, she always does this. Perhaps it's not them. I know that's hard. Perhaps it's you. Perhaps you haven't let go. Perhaps you haven't seen them with a different light. And maybe now would be a good time to do that. So correspondence, a notice of claim. And so then you correspond. There's either no response or, no action taken. So then you would move to step 2, and that's a notice of claim. And you would put in that notice, like the date. This is the first notice, the second notice, or the third. You want to send at least 3. You can send more, but a minimum of 3. And you're going to communicate, not a story, not like, okay, like the weather was this and da 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 da. No one cares about the story. I'm sorry. It's time to divorce your story. It's bullet points. It's facts. It's evidence. On September 10th, my mailbox was knocked over on or about, and your driveway is right across the street. I have video camera of it. I have a witness or something, and I communicated to you in correspondence, put it in your mailbox. How did I put it? You want some evidence that somebody did it, like recording it, that you got it. That's why in the United States, we can use green cards, return receipts. I have lots of them. And then you get the card back. That's how you can prove that it was delivered. You would send up to 3 of those, like I said. If there's no response, this is kind of part 2A. If there's no response to those notices after you've sent 3, then you would go to step 3. And that's a notice of dishonor and default and remedy. However, mine is notice of default, dishonor, and remedy. Something like that. But you would send up to 3 of those. You're going to point out how it's, hey, I sent you the correspondence on this date. I sent you a notice 1 on this date, 2 on this date, 3 on this date. And here's my evidence on Exhibit A. And you can have a copy of the green cards on there or something. How did they receive it? so that you're showing evidence, you're building up your case. This is how you're going to bring honor to them and saying, hey, look, I'm trying to work with you. I'm giving you the opportunity to cure so that I can come with clean hands and so that we can resolve this in honor. And then after 3 notices of default and dishonor and remedy, then it depends on the contract that you have. Is it a public? Is it a private contract? What's the origins of that? Where did it originate? And that's when we're going to go over that in just a minute, what you do. Oh, I think I went the wrong way. I did. So I have 7 points. First, we're going to establish a perfected record and make sure your 3-step notice process that I just talked about is airtight. How do we do that? You have a notice of claim, opportunity to cure, and then you clearly state in the claim who's involved and the lawful basis, like an affidavit of truth, contract, the trespass or the harm, the wrong that was done, the unlawful detainment, the extortion, whatever it was done. And then the notice of fault and default references the first notice, second notice, third notice, and cites the failure to rebut point for point and gives a defined cure period. So in your first notice in your correspondence, you say, please respond within 7 days. Then you go to a notice and 7 days, 7 days, 7 days. So, or you say 21 days, you can send the next notice at 7 days, the next notice at 14 days, and then you're at 21 days, right? So you've given them a period of time to cure it and to respond. You can wait longer than that. That is an example. Often, like, so American Water, for example, I read them every day because they're flushing my water, and it's unbelievable, the smell that's coming out of it, that's burning my eyes. My dogs won't drink it. I mean, I do have distilled water, but I have to pay extra for that. And so it's like, if it's an urgent matter, you can shorten that period of time because that would be more reasonable, as they are intending to harm, or they should know better, right? 3, I want to, it's not 3 yet, it's part of 2. Option is, let's go, it's, part of 2. Option is a public tribunal or filing a notice of lien. These are options that can come up after the default and dishonor. I put in parentheses because in legal, when something's in parentheses, it's not really there. So if you're going to quote any statutes, codes, titles, policies, procedures, terms, and conditions, I just put them, I like to put them in brackets. And so UCC1 or a private lien is something that you could do depending on what you're doing. If you're claiming a secured interest in the property or performance, attach your administrative record. That means all the evidence that you have. I did correspondence, I did notices, I did default, and you have that evidence with you. I don't always provide the evidence. I provide the dates, and I provide that it was delivered on those dates. I don't provide them necessarily all the recordings and everything. If they haven't responded, I'm waiting for them to respond. So sometimes I do, it just depends on the situation. Notice of dishonor and certificate of non-response declares, that's one thing that you want to do, is you want to write a notice of dishonor with a certificate of non-response. Hey, you haven't responded. I have these green cards that show that they've been delivered. And that declares that all the prior notices stand as truth and commerce by tacit agreement. That's equity and building honor. So when you're bringing equity, when you're bringing honor, it is to have that evidence to say, hey, I've given the opportunity to cure. I like to continue to give, even in the family court matter that I'm in, I was like, hey, this is the 5th time I'm giving you every opportunity to fix your errors, to correct your ways. And it's showing that I'm coming in honor, and I'm like, I'm not begging, but I'm definitely giving you every reasonable opportunity to correct your way. And so you attach that evidence. So put them on notice. Now be careful with liens. They must be lawful. and specific and supported by unrebutted affidavits and non-arbitrary numbers. I will admit, I do have one to the President of the United States, to the Supreme Court Justice, and to maybe a few others for 999 trillion, 999 billion, 999 million, nine. For anyone that wants to count me as a slave, I consider myself worthy of 999 trillion, 999 billion. And so I do have that because I feel that that is no more ridiculous to treat me or think that I'm a slave. It's no more ridiculous than maybe that number. So if they think that number is ridiculous, I think that the fact that they would have me be a slave is absurd, unconscionable, and unacceptable. Other than that, what would be reasonable compensation? So outside of someone trying to make you a slave and overreaching in that aspect, what would be a reasonable remedy? So I do bill at a certain rate, and so that's what I put my rate at. And I can show that. I have people that pay that. Step 3 is notice an offer of settlement. Before you escalate, equity requires at least one offer of peace. In honor and in good faith opportunity, you can start this with your notice of default. So in honor and good faith opportunity to settle this matter privately within 21 days before escalation. And then this maintains your clean hands and demonstrates good faith in later challenge. So if a magistrate in equity or chancery would say, well, did you give them the opportunity? Yes, I sure in the heck did. And how many more times than, 6 do I need? I, with one incident, gave 9, more than 9. I gave lots and lots of correspondence, ton. I gave the notices. I gave lawful bill 3 times. And then I gave the notice of default and dishonor. So this isn't a set stone. This is part of the process, though. So for record, you want to record and publish and give public notice, you can do that. That's an option. You can put it in the paper. I have filings in the county and with the county records, so property records, that I am a living soul. And I have a declaration, a status of living, a declaration, and a certificate of living. So I have 3 different documents that are filed in the court system and at the county records office. And I also did a UCC. Why? Because some will say, oh, you can't go into the matrix. You can't go into the Babylon. We are in the Babylon. We are in this world. We're not of the world. And when we know that we're not of the world, that we are living souls, but we are in it, I went into their system to poke a hole in their ship, to penetrate a frequency into the ship of the matrix. That's why. My intention is compassion. My intention is all mankind is kind. My intention is to help mankind remember who they are and to go into that matrix and to poke a hole. So that's just an option. It depends on your intent. If your intent is like, I want monies, they've made me a slave and I'm do this or that, you might want to do a little bit of inner work and really reflect on that. So it's just a suggestion. And you can do that a number of ways, of which I do teach some, and then others teach it even more. So record the affidavit. I do not give oath, by the way. I give acknowledgement. The Bible warns about oath, but it just shows that when you're putting it in the recorder's office, and I do 2 witnesses and a notary to acknowledge it. Now, optional again is you could put it in the paper, a notice of default, and claim a right in the newspaper. If you have a faith-based organization, some call it a 508, some call it a PMA. And a PMA in that situation would be a private member association. There are private agreements, vast amounts of private agreements, right? There's a private service agreement, a private confidentiality agreement. There's all kinds of private agreements. They're endless. As many agreements as you can have in the private partnership agreement, private joint venture agreement. And those are all based with a ministry, a faith-based ministry or organization. And then you want to make sure that you are maintaining and keeping your records. I have a file over here that's full of the records that I keep. So where are you keeping those? I have them I have them with some people's copies of things that I've done and in a trust. And then I have them maybe on 1 or 2 or 5 or 6 computers, not just mine. And then I have hard copies, and I have multiple ways of how I'm maintaining copies. So have an organizational system so that you can get your hand to that date. So I put the file date on it or who it's to. 5 enforcement options, depending on the context. Administrative treasury route. If it's a commercial claim involving government actors or financial matters, and you're going to send certified copies. An example of like who you could send it to is the man or woman. So everything I do is to the man or woman. So a woman named Nikki, who at times acts as agent with title of global HR for company Harma. Okay. But all times she's a woman. At all times she's living. At all times. There's not a moment in time until she's ceased to be in this life or in this realm. She's always alive, right? And so it's writing to the man or woman with title of whatever, head of treasury for the U.S. or whatever department you're writing, whatever country you're in. You want to say the agent with the title for principal. The principal is the U.S. Treasury, the Department of U.S. Treasury. There are 2 in the U.S., so you have 1 in D.C. and 1 in Puerto Rico. I would send it to both. They can do investigations and open investigations. I have 10 different agencies that I've written to on different matters. And depending on what their role is and what they're supposed to do, the level of investigation, including the bar, to have maybe somebody looked at in their bar license to see if maybe they should be disbarred. So it's looking at that and getting the agency and then following through with the agency, because they're going to maybe ignore you because they're not used to playing honor at all. And if you can get a bond on, so all companies have bonds on their executives, probably their board members too. If you can find the surety company or the risk management company and get their bond information, you can send it to them as well. And then at the government level, they have a department that handles that as well. B is judicial equity route. File a, they call it a petition. I like to say presentment. So presentment in equity or a bill. And I don't put complaint ever. I don't ever put complaint. I need to change that to claim. A lawful bill. I put a lawful bill. A motion to enforce. A motion to present private record attaching your administrative or your record of evidence. So, and ask the court to take a judicial notice of an unrebutted affidavits and order performance or payment, confirm lien or trust. In my private agreements, I have default judgment wording without the need to post a bond. If you have a private member agreement or private agreements and you don't have a clause for default judgment, it's something that I do teach. C, private tribunal mediation. I don't like arbitration. I like mediation. It's friendly and it says, let's come to the table, put our suitcases and our BS and our experience to the door. We come to the table and we're here to make amends. We're here to come up with a remedy. And that's an honor that's going to restore the damage, the trespass, the harm. And some might say nobody can bring someone back to life or undo abuse. I have been in an abusive marriage. And I do forgive. I highly recommend forgiveness because it is for you more so than them, as within, so without. And it's a beautiful, be you to the fullest process to let that go and realize that they hurt people, hurt people. And when you can forgive them for hurting you, then what can you do with that? How can you advance yourself to evolve in Christ consciousness, to evolve to be in honor of yourself? How can you heal within? I did that by becoming a volunteer for Alive, Alternatives to Living in Violent Environment. I also became a hospice volunteer. My brother was in hospice, and I just needed to heal from that, right? It's still hard, but that is a way for you to clean up. So when you're going to be bringing equity, you want to have forgiven and let go and always have a compassionate heart. Okay. And 6, to issue the final instrument, the settlement. Once enforcement is in motion and you're preparing, you're going to do a certificate of completion showing, hey, I've given all these opportunities. I have the evidence. I've offered. I'm not getting any resolution or solution. American Water is still putting poison in and they haven't ceased and desist, and they haven't, amended their ways, and they keep trying to blame EPA and everybody else when they are the leaders, are truly responsible. And that's just one company, right? We can do this together by having more do it, more send these kinds of notices. And so we're going to show that settlement and closure, release of claim once payment, performance, and remedy is received. Is it received? And how are you going to receive that? You are due, we are all due some remedy restoration. And that closes the loop and maintains that you're standing in honor. When you back down and don't finish this process, and I still have process to finish as well, don't start it if you're not going to end it. So once we start, we want to follow through. And the timeline is, I know life gets in the way. So let's do this together and make it a game and more fun. That's what I teach. Practice caution with equity. Practical caution and equity allows private enforcement. Every step must be shown. Honor. You must show honor. You offered remedy. You gave opportunity to remedy, to respond, to give restitution. You have the proof. I know some of this may sound like I'm repeating. It's worth repeating. And you want to have that check and balance. You want to make sure that you presented it to others and say, am I presenting this right? Am I, just get feedback from others as well. The amounts of the relief, are they reasonable? And record everything like I had said. Any public filing should stay within lawful limits. Improper liens or unfounded claims can trigger statutory penalties. So you just want to be mindful of that. It's not legal advice. If you intend to record or enforce a high value claim, have a trusted lawful process. And I recommend advisors. I have advisors for my trust and for my faith-based ministry. Reach out to them, get their input. Let them advise you on their end. And those should be living souls you trust that have high integrity. So I invite you to like and subscribe. Come walk on water with me at Maritime Legal, and together, let's put an end to this overreaching BS. So have some fun with the game of life, and I hope you'll join me. All of my social media and websites, The Game of Life 101.com, or The Game of Life on Telegram, The Game of Life on Facebook. It's The Game of Life 101. Sorry. Anyway, hope you follow me and like this, and let me know if it was helpful. Thanks so much. Until next time, roll the dice and play the game of life.